Hi friends, thanks for watching another video. I wanted to do this video today to kind of be a follow-up to something that I posted on my Instagram and Facebook stories last week. A post that actually garnered a lot of concern from you guys. So first of all, thank you for everybody who reached out and was concerned about my well-being. I realized in looking back at that post that I did not do a good job of explaining what I meant by what I said. And so that's why I wanted to do this follow-up video. So I will also be doing a corresponding blog post to go along with this in the near future, because I think this is a really important topic for us to discuss during pregnancy. And so I'll have a lot more information in the blog post. I'll make sure I'll share that whenever it is live. But I want to talk today about disordered eating and eating disorders in pregnancy. And so for those of you who saw my stories or maybe missed them and I'm not sure what I'm talking about, I had posted in my stories last week about how difficult the first trimester and this first part of my second trimester have been as far as eating, specifically eating enough protein and enough meat. Starting about week 6, I started having really strong aversions to meat, and meat was pretty much a no-go for like most of my first trimester, from about week 6 to week 12. And then week 12, my appetite started coming back and I started to be able to eat some meat again. And then at week 14, as I entered my second trimester, it like kicked up full swing again. And I've been kind of struggling to get enough protein in each day. So I had shared that and also was sharing the solutions that I was doing each day just to make sure that I was getting enough protein. So I'm supplementing with extra collagen. I'm putting it in my tea. I'm adding it to soup, and I'm adding it to smoothies as well. And I'm doing some protein shakes too with a really high quality protein powder and a greens powder too to get some extra nutrition in there, just because, you know, sometimes some days it's really, really tough to eat enough food. And so I mentioned also as part of that series of posts that these food aversions and these issues around food that I have felt for the last 10 weeks or so really were like stirring up a lot of memories of my eating disorder. And people kind of took that as I was like relapsing into my eating disorder, or I was behaving in a disordered manner around food. And so that's why I got all of the concerned messages. People were kind of worried that that was going on. So I want to assure you, I am not back in that place at all. And I wanted to clarify what I meant, because I reread my post and I understand why people got a little bit concerned. And so for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I had an undiagnosed eating disorder that really kind of controlled my life. For many years, I had a disordered relationship around food and body from the age of 8. And it was really in my early 30s that things started to shift for me. So it was a lifetime of yo-yo dieting and all of the ickiness that comes with eating disorders and disordered eating and disordered behaviors. So what I meant by that when I said that is that I'm in a totally different place mentally now. So I'm not behaving in the same way because I have done so much work. I've healed mentally. I've healed emotionally. I don't need to practice those behaviors anymore because I have learned, you know, why they existed in the first place. And I have developed new strategies for dealing with stress and anxiety and things like that. So I don't have to rely on those behaviors anymore as kind of a crutch. They were a really big crutch for me for a long time. So mentally and emotionally, I'm in a great place. So no worries there. But one thing I will say is that the sensations, the physical sensations of the food aversions and of being really hungry but not being able to eat, or being really hungry, this is one of the more common like symptoms for me whenever I was really disordered, was being really hungry, but cooking and preparing food was a chore because I would be super paranoid about what I was going to be eating. And so I would overanalyze everything. And at the time I was on a super restricted diet too, a couple of different restricted diets. And so my food choices were pretty limited. So really I got to a place where I was like, I'm just not even going to bother eating because it's such a chore to even try to figure out what is good for me to eat, and B, like to prepare it and like, or go get it or whatever it was. So those physical sensations, the body remembers that. It doesn't matter how many years have passed since that trauma happened. The body is going to remember the physical sensations. And that's what I've noticed has stirred up with some of these issues around being able to eat enough. And also another thing that I have noticed is that because I'm not eating a ton of meat, I'm not staying really satiated. I don't feel really like full and satiated when I get up from a meal, or even if I do, I might get hungry a lot faster than I normally would. And so all of those feelings kind of stir up those memories of all of that chronic dieting and that really disordered behavior and just those physical sensations of being hungry and being scared to eat or not wanting to eat or telling yourself you can't eat. They're all really miserable feelings. And so what I noticed was that going through this, and because it's been many years since I've had those feelings before, I haven't dieted in a really long time, many years. So it's been a long time since I have like felt those physical sensations of not being satiated and being super hungry and not wanting to eat. But a lot of that kind of stirred up those old memories. And so that's what I meant by my comment in my stories, in that it was stirring up old feelings from those eating disorder, those very disordered days. So I'm not relapsing. I haven't like behaved in a disordered manner around food. I really have just been trying to do the best I can every single day. Some days are better than others. I've had some days where I've been able to eat really normally, and I've had days where I just have to do the best I can and try to get in as much nutrition as I can, but also not force my body to eat if it's just not wanting food. So I'm really, really glad that I am to the point that I am now, because if I had gotten pregnant, years ago when this was going on, it would have been a total train wreck. And I really kind of shudder to think what could have happened to my health or to my baby's health, because I was so disordered. So I'm thankful that I now have much better coping mechanisms. My emotional and mental health is in a totally different place. And I've spent years cultivating this body awareness and this attunement with myself, so that I know how to nurture myself and how to nourish myself without, being disordered. So anyways, that is to kind of clarify what I meant by that. And I want to say this: if you are currently pregnant or you are thinking about getting pregnant and you have a history of disordered eating or chronic dieting, yo-yo dieting, or even an eating disorder, I really, really, really want to encourage you to make sure you tell your midwife or your doctor, and to also seek out some support, maybe in advance. If you're planning on getting pregnant and you're not pregnant yet, seek out some support in advance that you can rely on. So whether it be making sure you have a therapist lined up, making sure you have a dietitian lined up, or some other nutritional support that they can help guide you through this, and just have a safe place to go when those feelings start to come up again. Because the first trimester is hard for the majority of women, and the majority of women are going to have issues around food during the first trimester. Some women have issues around food for their entire pregnancy. So if you've got a history of those disordered behaviors, it's really, really smart to have some support lined up and not be afraid to talk about your feelings, to not be afraid to explore it. Because the last thing we want to be doing is having a relapse into our eating disorder or having a flare up of really disordered behaviors when we're pregnant. That's the last thing that our little tiny human needs. It takes a lot of energy to grow a tiny human, and we don't need to be falling back into those disordered behaviors again, because it's really detrimental both to us and to our babies and to those around us as well. So anyways, I will make sure I post the link to the blog post when I get this up, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. So no need to worry, I'm doing great, but I really appreciate you guys reaching out. It really meant a lot that you guys were concerned and reached out about it. So if you have questions about disordered eating during pregnancy or anything else on my pregnancy journey, I'm going to be sharing more about it as I go along, just because this is my history, this is where I come from, and I think it's really important, and I don't see it being talked about enough. Leave me a comment down below, send me a direct message. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and maybe even do some future videos on that as well. So I'm going to sign off for now, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.